Exactly. Kate Monroe is a Republican U.S. congressional candidate from California and a U.S. Marine.
Impressive.
Welcome to First Edition.
So glad to be with you this morning. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for your service to our country. Now, you're a Republican running for Congress in a blue state. So I have to ask you, before we even get to what's happening in New Hampshire, what do people in California really think of Gavin Newsom? He survived that recall. But, you know, we see Nikki Haley. She wouldn't be able to win South Carolina. We know she's not going to do that. Would Gavin Newsom win California in a presidential contest?
I mean, I think that Gavin Newsom would win California in a contest because Californians tend to not vote on issues. You know, they vote on all the salacious stuff that they see in the news for the most part. But Gavin Newsom certainly would not win if he were running for president. I could tell you that. I mean, the whole of the country, California is tired of Newsom. He narrowly won the recall. His systemic failure with homelessness, drugs, lawlessness have put him at the bottom of the Californians' heart, especially if they try to put him up for president. But in California, in this blue state, all of the constituents live in all the big cities that are very, very left.
Kate, I am trying to understand these people. Why would they continue to not double, triple down on bad policies to their own demise?
Yeah, I think part of it is they just don't know any better. They get fed a pack of lies. Go ahead.
Well, I should think that Americans would be terrified at the idea of the whole country being Californicated by Gavin Newsom. I mean, California has lost so many people to other states. They've lost congressional representation because people are fleeing the state to happier climes. And I'm not talking about climate. I'm talking about tax rates, for example. Tell us a little bit more about your race.
So my race is 50-50 voter reg, which is really good news. It's only D+3 turnout. So, you know, I said yesterday, all the Republicans in this state, everyone who is a little bit light blue, all you undecided, we really have to take a serious look at what we want for our country and what we want for our state. I've not talked to a single person who's happy with our open border, who's happy with all the sex trafficking and drugs, certainly the homelessness, drugs, and lawlessness that we have here. So I think that we're going to get a huge turnout of Republicans. I think that the undecideds are going to lean our direction because if you're really trying to decide what you want for your family, you want to be safe and you want a good economy. And we had that under the last Republican administration. So more Republicans, more people actually using their brain and thinking fiscally with some responsibility, I think are going to be a high priority here in the 49th district.
Well, Kate, the thing is that the issues are definitely on our side. However, I think in terms of the messaging, yes, everyone knows that, you know, Bidenomics and the Democrat policies are not working. But we need a positive, optimistic message in terms of what we're going to do for people. What is the messaging that you're crafting in your district that other Republicans should also use?
Well, a few things. I've been saying, you know, we're well past nice. It's time for 911. Our country is burning. Yesterday, I actually went and spoke to a bunch of lovely ladies at a Republicans women's event, and there were people there in their 90s. There were people there in their 30s. And my Marine Corps go get it done kind of savage spirit resonated with every single woman in that room. I think the messaging really needs to be, we need to take a harder line on things. Our families are not safe. We need to call up the National Guard, secure our border while we build the wall, reform immigration policy. We need to build a base camp. We could do the first one here in San Diego where we can clean up all of the homelessness nearly overnight. In 3 days, we could build this base camp. All of our homeless would be off the streets. We could then clean up our streets from all of the nasty needles and all the hepatitis C you find on all the streets here in California. I think people are also looking at the economy and they want more money. They're not happy about this inflation. You can't go and buy a home. You can barely get a car. The interest rates are out of control. And part of that, and part of the extra taxation that people always want, especially here in California, comes because we waste money. You know, we spent billions of dollars on homeless only to have more homeless. That's because there's no checks and balances. I think the border is of utmost security here in California and across the nation. And I have been saying, you know, I'm an American first candidate, but I'm an Americans first candidate. We have deprioritized our citizens, certainly our veterans. That's what I do for a living, is help veterans. And the deprioritization of our nation's military and active duty and veteran service members is out of control.
I wanted to follow up on that because you are a Marine and you have a lot of experience in that area. First of all, what did you think about the disappearance of the Defense Secretary? It's kind of dropped out of the news over the last 48 hours, but we still have no accountability, no explanation for how the Biden administration could function for 6 or 7 days with no communication between the president and the Defense Secretary.
Well, I mean, I think if we're being honest with ourselves as a nation, there's probably not a lot of communication going on between them, whether he is in or out of the hospital, which is probably how he was able to be in the hospital and go unnoticed. It just shows you the feckless leadership that we have in Washington. I mean, if you just look around the globe, we're basically letting lawlessness run rampant in the entire world, and there are no checks and balances. I think the fact that he was able to pull this off says less about him and more about our administration, that he was able to get away with it.
Wow. You know what? There's a forgotten class in our society, and they're called veterans. What should candidates be saying about veterans affairs going into this election?
Well, I mean, I think that they should be talking to veterans and their families. I think people don't really realize that the veterans in our nation are a completely untapped voter group. They're so disillusioned by everything they've been told, all the lies they've been told. You know, we did last year, VETCOMM, my company, we did $500 million in lifetime income for veterans and their families. And we talk to vets every day, thousands of them, and they can't believe that migrants are being seen in hospitals before them. You saw a rise in veteran homelessness because we reallocated the VA HUD-VASH program to migrants. I think that we should stop taxing retirement for veterans. I mean, they have already served and we tax their retirement. I think that people need to really reach out to veterans and say, you are a priority to me. You matter to me, whether I serve this country or not. You matter to me. And when I arrive in Washington, I will arrive there violently on your behalf, and there will be no more of this trickery. There will be no more reallocation of funds that are due you, that are owed you. We will be doing no more of leaving our border open so that migrants can come here and take your spot. I think that we need to be very veteran forward because veterans touch everyone. Here in San Diego County, there's 250,000 veterans. It's one of the largest instances of veterans in the nation. And you're not going to win an election if you don't start talking to veterans and their families and taking them more seriously.
That's such a good point, and I want to follow up on it and ask you, the military appear to be having a recruitment problem. It's been in the news lately. I should think that how we treat veterans is reflected in the failure to adequately recruit for the future. Your take on that?
Yeah, I've been very vocal about our recruiting crisis. I talked to all of the leaders, all the admirals that are in charge of the recruiting command for the nation. And they said, Kate, we're well past crisis. We called up our entire bench strength, the DEP program. So there is no bench strength left. It is said that 82% of those that serve do so generationally. Well, if you look at generation like from my age, you know, possibly around 40s to 60, there was such poor treatment of us while we were in service. You know, I was actually assaulted when I was in. Treated well. I was treated like garbage after I got hurt. And the way that we treat veterans makes them want to tell their kids not to go in. But it's not just that. It's the lack of patriotism in our country. You know, you talk to these young people. There's really good young people in our nation, some amazing kids coming up, and they just say, what am I going to fight for? You all, the generation before me, you won't even fight for this nation anymore. You leave an open border, you would have all this wokeism. Why would I go in if there's a lack of patriotism? So certainly the mistreatment of veterans is going miles toward our, I don't even know what's past crisis. We're at like DEFCON 10. We're fighting wars around the world, funding wars around the world with an open border, and we are not safe in our nation because our nation's military is so small.
That was
Wow.
a terrific interview. I hope you will come back and join us again.
What's your website? If we have 5 seconds.
kateforcongress.com, kateforcongress.com, FOR. So Kate for Congress, find me there. I need your support.